It's time for the show about the people and the places of the Carolinas with the occasional visitors. In addition to hosting the award-winning syndicated TV show Life in the Carolinas, Carl White writes a weekly syndicated column and now hosts this weekly show, the Life in the Carolinas podcast. Now you can hear the story about the stories. And now, here's your host, Carl White.
R.G. Absher, good to see you again, buddy.
Good to see you, Carl. It's great to be here today.
You know, you always bring great information. So we have to always departmentalize what we're going to talk about because there's so many things we can talk about. But today, it's all about the river, isn't it?
It is. And what we have here is a brochure that will also have an online presence as well. But it's with the Yadkin Valley, Upper Yadkin Valley region in Caldwell, Wilkes, Surrey, and Yadkin counties.
Okay. This
particular region has been branded for tourism purposes as the Yadkin Valley Heritage Corridor.
Okay, that's good.
So what we have is a guide, an introductory guide to getting out, enjoying the river, paddling in canoes and kayaks, and also in fishing opportunities that are out there in the Yadkin and its tributaries in this four-county region.
Well, one of the great things that I love about this map, and then the online version as well, is it's very interactive. And so everything is clearly numbered, and it's very well defined. But let's talk for a moment about the tourism and from the outdoor standpoint and the benefits that it brings for those people who participate. Talk about that for a moment.
Well, when people get out and move about in a tourist environment or an area that has amenities, be it recreational, be it arts and crafts, be it historic sites, the bottom line is they are making a positive impact on the economy by getting out and visiting and traveling to these sites. And
so it's the economy, but it's our bodies too, right?
Exactly. So the opportunity of fitness,
right?
And actually fitness for the amenities of positive mental health. That you get from being outdoors, and also the exercise that you get from doing activities such as walking or paddling or hiking. Outdoor activities right now are really important for folk that live in the region and visitors that come to the region.
I think by having so many beautiful things for people to experience in the region, it's not only great for the citizens, the people that live within these counties, but also for visitors to not only have an outdoor activity, but to have an activity that in an area that's steeped with not only natural beauty, but history as well, right?
That's right, and history is really important here in the Yadkin Valley. When you look at going back in history, well, the Native American occupation we know goes back to 10 to 12,000 years ago. Mm-hmm. And of course, through the colonial period, through settlers such as Daniel Boone, and later the Revolutionary War, the historical events that took place in the Yadkin Valley are really interesting to a lot of people. And when you come here and you move about the area, you can't help but to maybe absorb a little history.
So on the trail, let's talk about a few of those spots that have good history and some of your favorite spots, because you've been on the outdoor journey for a long time, right? Because your background, a lot of people know you for your music and so many other things that you do, but outdoor has been a big part of your professional career, right?
It has, and I'm retired from the Corps of Engineers and retired in 2010. As a park manager and a former park ranger, an assistant park manager. I served in those positions, and which took me outside in the natural resources. And water and boats have always been a big part of my life, even early on, all the way back to when I was a teenager, and going down and paddling the rivers as a Boy Scout.
Right.
I became interested in paddling and rivers and water. And water sports.
So I wanted you to say that because you know a thing or two about doing this and doing it safely, right?
I do, and there is a problem that of people getting out and paddling without safety precautions, because you can get out there and the water can be cold, and you can get hypothermia, and that can create accidents and fatalities. Another danger that's out there are the trees that fall in the river.
Right.
And you need to know about those kinds of dangers. Then you need to equip yourself with safety gear and safety precautions necessary to safely to get out there and travel and enjoy the river. Mm-hmm. And one thing that the brochure does is emphasize safety.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good. Well, so for people watching, just catching up with and being aware of what this map and the interactive version has to offer online, talk a moment about what we should do to prepare. So we talked about how important safety is, but for someone just going out for a casual afternoon, right, and they're just friends or family, whether they're tubing or boating or whatever they're doing, what are the things that we need to be prepared for? What do we need to pick up? What do we need to have in the back of the car or the truck? I
always start with information, and you want to tell people where you're going. Okay. If I'm going to be expected and how long I'm going to be expected to be gone away on the river and where I'm going to go, make sure to communicate that to somebody as a safety backup in case you get out there and have a problem on a stream, or you lose your boat, get it stuck on a rock or something like that, and need to bail out and get assistance. And of course, in modern day and time, many cell phones are now waterproof.
Right.
And I like carrying things on the river with me that are waterproof and secure.
Right.
So how to store your equipment properly, and then those pieces of equipment that are really important for safety. The number one piece of equipment is the life jacket, or commonly called the PFD, or the personal flotation device.
Right.
And studies have shown that a large amount of people would be fine had they had a life jacket on when they capsized in the river,
right,
or lost control of their boat or whatever, and later, unfortunately, became a statistic. But if they'd had that life jacket on, it probably prevented the drownings.
So a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, but I'm just floating.
Exactly.
It's not a big deal." I mean,
exactly.
But it is a big deal, right?
It is, and it's good. It's good to have those pieces of safety. For instance, ropes. A rescue knife is good to have if you need to cut a rope or a tree branch or something in an emergency. If you get stuck on a tree branch that's been dangling over the canoe, right, and if you can cut loose with that and you carry a knife with you, you have a capability to do that. Or if you get tangled up in a rope or a tie line or something,
right,
like many times you put on a canoe, you put a line on the front of the boat and you put one on the bow, the bow, which is the front, or the stern, which is the rear. About a 10 to 12 foot line, and that's to tie off the canoe when you need to stop along the riverbank and maybe tie it around a tree or that kind of thing. Also, to recover it if it becomes capsized in the water, it's good to have a line.
Right. So you're talking about some things that sound pretty serious. But we don't want to scare people, but people do need to be mindful.
That's correct. And taking precautions like if you know the water's cold,
right,
to wear personal protective equipment, and such as a dry suit or a wetsuit, and having layered clothing, eating and drinking properly when you're on the river, having fluids in your body, and also having some foods.
Right.
Gatorade is always a good thing to have on hand and to have something which can sustain you for that duration of the trip while you're out there.
So basically, if you're not a daily adventurer and
right,
this is something, the weather's warm, we've got some time off, we've got vacation time, and that's the only time you're doing these things, and you're not, it's not part of your weekly activities. For some people it is, right?
That's right.
So they're going to be much more mindful. So just take time to make sure you're protected so that special moment doesn't turn into bad. What do you know the statistics, of people that go out, like for every 100 people that go out, how many bad events are there?
We've, unfortunately, and the local emergency medical service has pointed that we've had several fatalities on the Yadkin River the last few years. And there has been an increase in travel. So at the same time, it's an excellent time to stress these safety practices that will keep you safe while you're out there. And you want to have fun out there.
Right.
The good thing about the Yadkin and its tributaries, we go from class 1 all the way up to class 4 in difficulty, but most of the sections of the Yadkin are class 1 and 2, which are ideal for people with less experience.
Right, smooth sailing.
Smoother.
Smoother floating.
But there's still things out there that can hurt you. Like cold water is one. Certainly could do that, resulting in hypothermia, or there have been some of the fatalities on the Yadkin that have been associated with hypothermia, cold water shock, and what that can do to you, because you become numb, and over a period of time you can lose consciousness with hypothermia.
And it kind of slips up on you.
It slips up on you too, and sometimes you don't realize it's coming on. So that cold water is another biggie. Not wearing life jackets is another big one. In addition to being careful out there and not becoming entangled in trees or overhanging branches or things like that can entangle you when you're in the water. So those are the big ones. Now, with that said, we've got a really wide range of paddling opportunities. That's the good news. And the scenery is outstanding. You could be going down the river and you might see a great blue heron fly by, or you can see ducks and geese and many types of waterfowl species, and you can see turtles and snakes. Nobody likes to see snakes.
But that's special. I mean, that's what makes the outdoor activity, from my perspective, so special, is that interaction that we can have, if we're fortunate, with nature.
Exactly, and so to connect with your resources, be it nature, be it historical resources, it's all about the river. It all starts with the river. It's kind of the theme of the brochure. It starts with the river. And interestingly, I was at Carscott Reservoir back in the late 2000s, and an avid canoeist by the name of Monty Hamby now resides in Winston-Salem, but he's formerly a park director here in Wilkes County. And he was an avid canoeist and paddler, and he made the statement one day at the tailwater access down behind W. Carscott Reservoir. He said, it starts with the river. And I got thinking about that. Everything was connected to the river, the historic sites, connected to the outdoors, the natural resources, the wildlife, the fish, and the water, the quality of the water. All of those things come full circle. And what a better way to connect to it than get out and actually paddle and enjoy.
Well, historically, it was a lifeline, right? I mean, it was the life source. So it's how people could get around, and as you said, a source of food and water.
Exactly. If you look at the history through the 1800s, what really brought people to the Yadkin Valley were the natural resources, the lumber that they could make from the trees that fell in the forest, the agricultural crops of corn that grew in the bottomlands dating way back to the use by the Native Americans for growing corn, beans, and squash, which were known as the Three Sisters. Then, of course, now the agricultural importance here in this region due to agriculture tourism and vineyards that have sprung up in Yadkin Valley. And of course, it's been very important for the years dating back for the last 100 years in poultry, livestock, crops, cash crops such as soybeans and corn and silage. So it's really been a rich area from the standpoint of agritourism.
Right, and the water was all part of that. And one of the nice things is that as you're going down these waterways, you get to see a lot of that. Yeah,
there's places on the Yadkin River where you can, believe it or not, get a glimpse of Pilot Mountain.
Sure, right.
It borders Stokes and Surrey County over there. So that's a pretty incredible. In some places on the Yadkin, you can see Grandfather Mountain.
Right. So if someone were to say, okay, I'm in, I want to have the entire experience. I want, over a period of time, I want to do the entire Yadkin River. I want to do everything. How long would that take someone?
Well, we've estimated back, in fact, Bob Pate wrote the book, Yadkin Valley Passages, River Passages, back in the late 80s. And he actually took a trip during that time frame down the Yadkin all the way down to Georgetown. So the Yadkin flows into the PD and then on to the Atlantic Ocean there near Georgetown, South Carolina. Well, he did the whole trip, and it was spread out over 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
So, so you can imagine this particular section here, you probably could do the 10 sections that are here in about 10 I estimate about 10 days.
Right. And that's from start to finish.
Would be from the start to finish.
But if you came and you did a piece and, within a couple of months, if you said, okay, this summer we're going to do all of this, it would be a series of visits, but you could certainly get it done in 10 days.
You could get it done.
Yeah.
And so, but what people could do here is what they could do is experience the paddling opportunities. If you like outdoor recreation, you could experience the trails,
right,
and the mountain bike trails that we have here. So we find when you go to Merle Fest, look at the car tops there, the number of car tops that have canoe carriers on them at Merle Fest, or they have bike carriers on them for mountain biking up some of the trails up around here, up at Carscott Lake.
So they're getting music, but they're also enjoying nature.
Yeah, so we're seeing people cross. I guess you basically cross-pollinating their activities, so that they're doing multiple activities while they're here, and those things all impact the tourism in a positive sense and local economy. But more importantly than that, it offers that, as we talk, that benefit of enrichment.
Right.
Feeling the senses of the fresh air, being outdoors, being able to breathe and look around and see the wild plants and animals and wildlife and commune with nature. That really makes it special.
We talked about safety. We talked about some of these experiences. And you mentioned how to be prepared. Part of being prepared is water and food. Now, water and food, people bring snacks. There's trash that comes from that. So it's really important to be mindful about taking care of your own. Let's talk about that for a moment from two ways. One, what should we do? And then two, what happens when we don't?
Well, the old Boy Scout lesson of leaving an area better than you found it also relates really nicely to outdoor recreation. If everybody did that, it would be a lot cleaner for everybody. Think about that for a minute. So when I'm out there and packing for my activities on the river that day, I want to be sure and take everything out that's artificial, that's not biodegradable. And so that's certainly we stress conservation in the brochure, as well as being nice to landowners, respectful of other recreational users you come in contact with. If you're going to be an ambassador for the outdoors, then it begins here, begins with me, or the person, begins with you.
Right.
If you're paddling the river and so forth, and that's your opportunity to be a good steward of the environment. And for many people to come by, and nobody wants to go down an area that's trashed up with a lot of trash and cluttered. So what you want to do is to make sure and clean as you go.
Right.
And everybody's better off for that.
Just take it out and then even be open to the idea that take your stuff out, but if you see something someone didn't take out, and that happens, right?
Sure.
That maybe cleaning up a little bit along the way is a good thing to do.
And a lot of people who are experienced paddlers will take a garbage bag with them, maybe a contractor bag, and while they're out there that particular day, they'll make a little contribution towards the cleanliness of the river.
Right, and that's a good thing.
Oh, yeah, it's great. It's a great thing. If it catches on, then you can imagine how much better and cleaner the river will be for everybody.
Not long ago, we did some recording with a group of fishermen, and they were doing a cleanup along a waterway, and they shared with me how important it is for the health of the water and the fish, the life that's there, the water, which needs to be clean, because if it's not clean, it affects a lot of things.
One of the fastest growing sports right now is fly fishing.
Right.
And we have a lot of fly fishing opportunities in the Yadkin, on the Yadkin and its tributaries. In fact, many people don't realize that here, even on the Yadkin River Greenway in North Wilkesboro, you can go out there and trout fish along the reddies.
Right.
They've recently stocked here at the 1st of April, and there are trout fish in there, and it's a great body of water to fly fish because it's big enough to fly cast. So we address fishing in the brochure, and we also put folks in touch with the resources such as where you can find the regulations.
Right.
Because they vary from stream to stream, but there's a lot of trout fishing streams that feed the Yadkin. especially on the northern end as they come out of the mountains.
Right. So there are plenty of wonderful opportunities to get out and enjoy nature, interact with nature, do a bit of fishing, catch your dinner, right?
Exactly. And those are amenities that are special that people sometimes equate with, hey, I'm going to Canada to go fishing.
Right, sure.
I'm going out on Idaho and catch some fish, but you can experience a lot of those kinds of benefits right here on the Yadkin.
So you're telling me that this is more than just a body of water. It sounds like you're saying it's a body of water with a lot of diverse opportunities, a lot of diverse experiences.
It really is the variety of experiences that you can and absorb yourself in the communities. The river is just another introduction to getting that opportunity.
So you've done the waterway, right?
Yes,
you've had the experience. So
yes.
Tell me from your personal experience, how many different experiences did you feel that you were having? In other words, when you were in this particular part of the river, it was a certain sense that you had that was around history or whatever. And then, so how many diverse experiences might someone have?
Well, the romanticized experiences people talk about are those experiences like they experienced on the Chattooga River back in Deliverance days. Right. And of course, I have many experiences. I've logged thousands of hours on the river as a whole, paddling rivers such as easier rivers such as the New River in North Carolina, Virginia, and of course the Yadkin River and its tributaries. But the tributaries that are here, some of them offer some incredibly nice outdoor, almost wilderness experiences, and you can achieve those on such rivers as the Mitchell and the Fisher, right? That feed the Yadkin River, and then on the upper end we have a couple streams that run when we have wet weather periods, such as Elk Creek and Buffalo Creek, that are extremely remote and beautiful. So you can have even a wilderness experience in a few of the locations along believe it or not, on the Yadkin River. But all of those things are things that were rewarding to me, and getting out, getting the exercise, and paddling, and enjoying the things that nature brings while you're out there, and the combined experience of recreation, exercise, and those amenities. To me, it's always been good. But yeah, I paddled all the way since I was 15 years old. I took my first trip down the Green River with a scout group, and so I was hooked from that point on. And I've gotten out and had the chance to explore virtually all these sections. So I was knowledgeable when we put about their locations and what they had to offer when I put the brochure together.
So if we had a studio on the waterway, you would have paddled in today.
Yes, that would have been an excellent. And here's the thing. I work with the Yadkin River Greenway, and the Blue Way is a component of the Greenway.
Sure.
We have the river out there, and on a hot summer day, as people are coming through town here, even in North Wilkesboro, you might see 40 or 50 canoes and kayaks coming down the river, especially on a weekend day.
Nice. Well, it certainly is a wonderful way to get in touch with nature, and in doing so, we get more in touch with ourselves. I believe that's true.
I think that's the bottom line, and to do it safely. And that's what the goal of the brochure is. Yeah. Is to encourage that activity, but encourage folks to do it in an enjoyable and safe way.
So obviously people can get a hard copy of the brochure at different places, but the most important thing for people everywhere is they can go to goyadkinvalley.com, right?
That's correct. Goyadkinvalley.com.
And there'll be an interactive map there. And then can people order these, or do they pick them up at the visitor center? How do they get them?
The best way to get these are the area Chamber of Commerce and and heritage sites throughout the 4-county region: Wilkes, Surry, Caldwell, and Yadkin County.
Okay, great. So if you're traveling and you're coming to Wilkes, you can check out the website first and get a good feel of everything there, and then you can stop in at one of those convenient locations and get your hard copy.
And the brochure contains the information on the section, its distance, the difficulty, some tips on accessing the various points. We call them the put-ins and the takeout points.
Right.
It gives you information on where you can go to find such as stream flow information. Those links are all provided in here. And when it becomes fully interactive on the website, you'll be able to actually click on the information you need.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, RG. Great to see you again, buddy.
Thanks a lot, Carl. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Life in the Carolinas podcast. If you enjoyed your time with us, please visit the show's website at lifeinthecarolinas.com. Join our mailing list, and we'll keep you updated every week on what we have coming up and other interesting things around the Carolinas. We value you as a podcast subscriber. We'll see you next week. And remember what Carl says, it's never a bad time for a good story.